All religions are a path to God. These were the words of Pope Francis in a recent interreligious meeting with the youth in Singapore, sparking quite the uproar from some Catholics. Did the Pope just say that all religions are equal? In short, no. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the only way to salvation. This is and has always been the teaching of the Catholic Church, and Pope Francis definitely believes it. And yet, what he said is not wrong. What is the Church's teaching on other religions, and how should we approach them? This is Catholicism in Focus. In our modern, politically correct world, there is a lot of social pressure on being inclusive and avoiding anything that might assert superiority or exclusivity, leading some to downplay the role of Jesus in the work of salvation and to make all faiths equal. This is a heresy, but it's also not what Pope Francis said. As much as we may want to be inclusive of other faiths, the Christian understanding of salvation is binary. Either Jesus died and was resurrected for the forgiveness of sins, saving humanity from death, or he didn't. If he didn't, then Christianity is just wrong, but if he did, then all salvation must come through him. It's why, since nearly the beginning of the Church, Christians have promoted the doctrine of salus extra ecclesiam non est. There is no salvation outside the Church. Jesus is the only one who can save, and without him, no one can be saved. And contrary to what some may have you believe, this statement remains the stance of the Catholic Church, reaffirmed as recently as the year 2000. In the declaration, Dominus Jesus, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith asserts, "It must therefore be firmly believed as a truth of the Catholic faith that the universal salvific will of the one and triune God is offered and accomplished once and for all in the mystery of the incarnation, death, and resurrection of the Son of God. Without Jesus, there is no salvation." And yet, to the surprise of many, the decree is quick to point out in the very next line that this does not mean that one must be a registered, envelope-giving parishioner of the Roman Catholic Church to make it to heaven, that people of other faiths are immediately doomed to hell. In fact, the Church affirms positive values other religions play, even in the work of salvation. The Church is invited to explore if and in what way the historical figures and positive elements of these religions may fall within the divine plan of salvation. The Second Vatican Council, in fact, has stated that the unique mediation of the Redeemer does not exclude, but rather gives rise to a manifold cooperation, which is but a participation in this one source. In other words, Muhammad can play a role in leading people to salvation, as can the Buddha, and Krishna, and potentially many other leaders and figures of other faiths. The fact that these two statements appear side by side is important in defending against the many misinterpretations of our day. To those who say that all religions are the same, that all paths, independent of the others, lead to God, we're reminded that salvation was accomplished through Jesus and no one else. But equally as important, to those who say that nothing can be gained from other religions, that Christians and Christians alone can know God and be saved, the Church challenges us to see that God can and does use even other faiths as mediators to lead people to the truth of his Son. It's not that Muhammad or the Buddha or Krishna can save. It's that studying these figures and imitating their life may lead people to the one who can, Jesus Christ. For just as Jesus tells his disciples that he is the way, the truth, and the life, he also tells them, "I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. These also I must lead, and they will hear my voice, and there will be one flock, one shepherd." It is not only possible, but significantly likely that God can work in and through other religions, that what they admire in their own faith is a precursor to the fullness of faith found in Jesus Christ. It's why the Second Vatican Council states in its document Noster Aetate that the Catholic Church rejects nothing that is true and holy in these religions, and in the document Lumen Gentium refers to the peoples of many other religions as related to the people of God in various ways and are included in the plan of salvation. Even if on the whole each of these faiths has a major flaw, each one captures some nature of the truth of God in a beautiful way. This is not to say that all faiths are equal, but that's not what Pope Francis said either. His exact words were, "All religions are a path to God." Not exclusive paths, not paths that are sufficient in themselves, but paths that, if followed with sincere hearts and humility before God, will hopefully lead to the fullness of God, of which their religion in itself has a limited perspective. Because really, logically speaking, if there is something true about their faith, which we admit there is, and all truth comes from God alone, then there must be an aspect of the living and true God in their religion. It may have some distortions and misunderstandings surrounding it. No one is saying that all of Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism is inspired by God, but some of it certainly is, meaning that some of it is a path to God. A path that ultimately runs through Jesus if one wishes to be saved, but not understanding this in this life does not automatically exclude someone from salvation. As the Church teaches, those with invincible ignorance of the gospel can still be saved. Those who, through no fault of their own, do not know the gospel of Christ or his church, but who nevertheless seek God with a sincere heart and, moved by grace, try in their actions to do his will as they know it through the dictates of their conscience, those too may achieve eternal salvation, not because they are a follower of Muhammad or the Buddha or Krishna, but because their faith in these figures has prepared them for the one they have desired in their hearts but did not know existed, Jesus Christ. Meaning that not only can non-Christians be saved, but they can be saved, in part, because of the religions they have followed. Given the world in which we live, Pope Francis's words may have come across to some as politically correct nonsense or feel-good Christianity, and it's understandable why someone would interpret it that way. But there's also a way of interpreting it that is completely consistent with our teaching, especially considering that he said this to a group of non-Christians. One has to consider the pastoral implications of his words. Criticizing their faith and triumphantly asserting the name of Jesus on them may not have been the best first step of evangelization. The work of evangelization is about meeting people where they are and building on what they know. What they know now is a glimmer of God, a start, a step on the path, and this needs to be affirmed as such, a step on the path, one that must ultimately run through Jesus.